So this is about rare diseases. There are 10,000 of them. I suspect everyone in this audience knows someone with a rare disease. 1 in 11 have a rare disease. So many of you do. The challenge is they're individually rare. In the aggregate, they're significant. Just some of the statistics on how prevalent the aggregate of rare diseases are, and most of them are due to single gene defects. There are about 350 million individuals globally affected by rare diseases. What's really interesting from a market perspective is that there's a disproportionate number of patients outside the United States, in particular in middle and income countries, due to founder effects and high rates of consanguinity in the Middle East. But Every Life, a nonprofit, did a pretty careful assessment of the economic impact in the United States of rare diseases. And in total all-in costs, it's over $1 trillion a year. There have been projections on what the business of gene therapy potentially could be over time out to 2032, with a projection of a $50 billion market. We decided to leave the University of Pennsylvania, take our group with us, and start a company, GEMMABio, and I want to just walk you through sort of what we're trying to accomplish. First, we need an intellectual property, and we were very fortunate that Penn, despite many have criticism of the tech transfer office at Penn, they've been very supportive and generous, providing us with more than enough intellectual property. Our strategy, though, learning from Zolgensma, was to focus on lethal infantile diseases with biomarker endpoints to simplify clinical development. We're talking about clinical trials that could be 10, 20 patients, reducing the spend and accelerating timelines. Then we would aggregate these assets into platforms that hopefully have a lead program that's successful to de-risk, increasing probability of success, and then we can create a potentially aggregated market opportunity. From our point of view right now, it's all about diminishing the capital needs to bring these programs successful and creating sufficient markets. And then ultimately, someone has to commercialize these products. That's a real way that we get access to patients and drive value. The pharmaceutical industry for the rare diseases has walked away. They're not supporting it. So someone needs to step forward. In biotech, which generally do not become commercial organizations in rare diseases, we need to stand up and create commercial models that work. And we have some ideas about that I'll mention. And our portfolio that we put together has 8 neurologic diseases that we either in-licensed from companies I started or from Penn, and 2 cardiovascular diseases. So what we've been working with regulators on is how can we really leverage the platform so that we can decrease costs, accelerate timelines. And I believe AAV gene therapy in this sort of model is a poster child for achieving quote-unquote personalized medicine. If we can't get this right, I don't think we're going to be able to do it. So at Penn, in the Orphan Disease Center that I ran, we conducted a natural history study where we identified patients around the world with early infantile, late infantile, or juvenile, did a lumbar puncture to harvest CSF, measure the substrate, and ask the question, is it accumulated? And it accumulates in early infantile, it's high, in juvenile, it's undetectable, and late infantile, somewhere in between. This accumulation in CSF ganglioside is associated in the upper right in the early infantile to uniform fatality. There's no survival. Interestingly, the juvenile, in which there is no accumulation, there's complete survival. And the late infantile, there's a mixed bag. Presumably those with higher levels are more severely affected than others. This is the kind of data that we believe FDA would accept as a biomarker for accelerated approval, in which if we could show, following gene therapy, that we can reduce the CSF GM1 that would reasonably predict that the patient would benefit from this. Then you need to do a confirmatory study later, which is essentially as you treat patients, you follow them longitudinally. And so we conducted this study. We dosed 11 subjects, 4 at low dose, 4 at mid dose, 3 at high dose. I'm just going to share with you the middle dose data in which we've evaluated patients for a reduction in CSF GM1. And you can see in all 4 patients, it's come down. We've followed out. It continues to go down out at 720 days. It's normalized, and we're heading in that direction in the others. So this went to FDA, and we're working with FDA on whether these data would be suitable for an accelerated approval. But as we began to follow the patients as well clinically, what we saw is this not only showed a biochemical improvement, but in the middle dose, patients, we now have 4 that have elevated CSF. We're showing you 2. These are the early infantile. And then also the other doses, that you get a significant improvement in survival, and we really believe that this is going to be a prolonged effect, similar to the kind of Zolgensma data that generated so much enthusiasm there. So we may not even... So we've started an effort, we call it Project Hope, to not only put a business case together for these curative treatments in higher income countries, but how do we then provide access to countries where it's not affordable? And as I think about the strategy here, and this is what we're pursuing, is we need genetic medicines companies committed to developing best-in-class medicines and providing global access through novel commercial models. To build an international consortium of government agencies to simplify and coordinate review and approval of genetic medicines. The more rare diseases are marginalized, the more the health authorities are leaning in and being flexible. And I hope you're seeing that in the CAR-T space, but we're definitely seeing this in the rare disease space. They want to be part of the solution. And creative ways to capitalize these efforts through a combination of grants, licenses, venture capital, and something we call mission capital. There is enormous appetite in family offices if you can provide a solution where that support can directly impact on patient lives for us to help finance what we need to do. And then pricing and reimbursement policies that provide sufficient revenue to encourage investment and sustain the company while providing subsidies to where it's needed. So our first effort is in Latin America, and we announced a month ago a collaboration between GEMMABio and the Ministry of Health in Brazil, where they provide us with $100 million of non-dilutive capital to offset our costs of clinical trials and manufacturing. In return, we then develop those. It's for our 6 lead programs. We globally develop those, including in Brazil, licensed through Anvisa, and they then can manufacture, and they have manufacturing capability, and distribute in Brazil at a lower cost than it would be if we went through normal channels. We skip all the steps about pricing and reimbursement, goes right to the market, and we get a royalty back. When you look at what impact would that have on GemmaBio's bottom line in terms of overall sales, minimal, but we're actually getting reimbursed on day one and don't have to go through that lengthy process of fighting the system to try to get the highest amount that we can. And we really view Brazil and Latin America as the hub in impacting on many other countries in Latin America, some of which do not have the means that Brazil does. There actually is a number of consortia that have formed around healthcare, in particular in WHO. That is one platform by which we're trying to bring all this together. So what you see here, we are in the late stages of developing in the Middle East as well. selecting a government and a country that would serve as that hub for us to begin to develop research and commercial entities that could provide access, not only in that location, but more broadly. So